just so you can see. Yeah, come a little bit closer so I'm not having to speak too loud. Thank you. Okay, so quite deliberately, we'd like to, whenever we're practicing our flicking, we'd like to start quite close in. Okay, the reason for that is if we start at the top of the D, we start to see like little sort of cheats or like little sort of like ways to get the ball into the goal without it actually being a drag flick, so it'll look more like just a lob towards the goal. So we like to start quite close in, just so we can kind of take that element out of it and just focus on the technique that we'd like to see. Okay, so whenever we're coaching drag flicks, we want to coach it in 4 stages. Okay, and it's quite important that we break it down into those elements so that a player can start to develop it in stages and not feel a bit overwhelmed by the amount of different little coaching points and tips that they need to be aware of and understand. Okay, so the first the place I would start is it's really useful if you've got a penalty spot, because we're going to start about this far away from the penalty spot. Okay, we're going to start on the left hand side of the penalty spot. Okay, the reason why we're using this is it's going to be a bit of a guide for us, because when we're picking the ball up, okay, so the first stage is our pickup. Okay, we want to make sure the ball is traveling in a straight line. Okay, so when we're first starting, we want the ball to move in a straight line. So start with the ball on the left hand side of the penalty spot, and what you're asking them to do is try not to let the ball touch the spot. Okay, so you want them to keep the ball nice and close to them and in a straight line. Okay, so you'd ask them to start. The better they are, the tighter you can get to the P spot. You might want to start a little bit further away just to give them a slight bit of wriggle room. Okay, and we're going to start in this position. Okay, feet ahead of the ball. Okay, the key bits here are that we're starting to sink down. Okay, and we're getting a bend in both elbows. Okay, so what you'll sometimes see is the left elbow's bent and the right arm's completely straight. Okay, we want to make sure we're bending both elbows. Okay, we're then trying to bring the ball through on a straight line. Step forward and push it towards the goal. So at this stage, it doesn't have to really look like a drag flick. What we're looking at is the pickup, keeping it in a straight line, keeping our elbows bent, and as we lunge forward, pushing the ball towards the goal. Okay, so have a go. Yeah, so just the same thing that I just did. Good, well done. So so once we've done that, okay, we can tick that off as okay, they know how to pick the ball up and they're able to keep the ball in a straight line. Okay, that's a really good starting point. Once they can do that, okay, at this point we'd maybe move slightly further back, but we still want to keep that within our sort of eye line just to keep giving us those reminders. Okay, we then want to get into stage 2, which is being able to combine our footsteps with the pickup. Okay, so we know how to pick the ball up. We now want to be able to pick the ball up whilst doing our footsteps. Okay, again, we want the footsteps to end up being in quite a straight line as well. Okay, so if I do it without the ball, we want our footsteps to be able to draw a straight line as well. Okay, so why do we think that's important? Yeah, momentum through the ball. What might we see quite a bit that if we weren't aware of that would happen?
Fade away from it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. So what we'll see quite a bit is with each footstep, they can get slightly further and further away from the ball to the point where they're having to really reach and try to lean forward. So we're losing a bit of balance. Okay, so it's important that with our footsteps and our pickup, the ball's traveling straight, the feet are traveling pretty straight, and we're ending up in a really, really balanced position. Okay, so nothing's really moving to the sides. Okay, we want everything going towards the goal. Okay, so from there we want to be able to go ahead of the ball, so we're then picking the ball up. Okay, bringing it forward. Okay, and pushing it towards the goal. Okay, so
what would you say is better, behind the foot or in front?
Most people behind. However, if you in particular find it easier, we can shuffle step. Okay, we can foot step in front. Okay, I'd say most often behind, unless you have a real preference, you really like doing it. So mostly behind. Yeah. Okay.
Why was Dick trying to tell us to go in front?
Okay, so do one more exactly the same way you just did it. This time I want us all to be watching and give a coaching point on the pickup. Okay. Okay, can anyone think of one? So I'll not let. I'll ask someone else because Sam's too clever. Anyone else? Yeah. So boys, did we notice that?
Yeah.
What was it?
Pushing his hand down.
Yep. So on that one, before we were talking about having our elbows bent. That time our right arm was completely straight. Okay, rather than bending. Okay. Why? Apart from not having, we obviously have only done a couple, so we haven't got that used to that yet. Why else? What would force him to bend his elbow? Yeah, possibly. What else that we talked about? So, if we perfect. Yep. So before in our first position, we're starting quite far ahead of the ball. So naturally, to kind of pick the ball up nicely, we're going to bend that elbow because we're kind of bringing it from behind us. Okay. So on that one, your foot was here. Okay, so when the foot's in line with the ball, there's no need to bend that elbow, okay? And it's quite difficult to even get into that position. Okay, so with our foot step stage, we want to make sure we're getting the left foot beyond the ball, okay, so that we can bring it a bit further, okay, and we can get that bend, okay, and then we're stepping and we're going through. Okay, so on this one, give it a go of stepping further beyond the ball with your left foot. Good effort. Okay, bring it back a little bit further. Okay, so this time I want you to start a bit closer to the ball. So I just want you to go one step with your right foot and then step beyond with your left foot. Okay. Okay, so if I just grab that. Good. Okay, so step one, pick up. Step two, foot steps. Step three is working on being able to push our stick away from the ball. Okay, so after we've picked the ball up, being able to push the stick away from the ball so that we get the ball to travel up our stick. Okay, so if I just borrow your stick again, this is why it's really crucial to make sure the ball's traveling in a straight line. Okay, because this is where, if it isn't, this is where it starts to fall down. Okay, so if the ball's traveling in a straight line and I push my stick away, okay, that naturally means that the ball is going to travel up my stick. Okay, so it takes a bit of getting used to, but it's not too difficult once we get the hang of it. Okay, what we do sometimes see quite a bit is that if the ball's not traveling in a straight line, okay, so we start to bring the ball over to the right hand side. Now if I have to push my stick away, what's happening? Yeah, I'm starting to really lean forward. I'm starting to really reach out my arms to achieve that. Okay, we want to really avoid that happening. Okay, so we want to keep the ball in a straight line. We want to keep it nice and close to ourselves so that even when we do push the stick away, this elbow's still bent, this elbow's still bent. We're not getting to this stage, okay, and I'm not falling forwards. Okay, so as we're picking it up, keeping it close, bending. Okay, so I'm ending up in this position. Still a little bit of a bend, still a little bit of a bend. Okay, the ball's nice and close. And also, which we'll talk about in a second, with step 4, it's really beneficial to keep these feet together so that we can push off the back leg. Okay, so that's where we're going to generate more speed. Okay, as if we can keep our feet in a straight line and push off this back leg. Okay, so let's have a go at step 3, which is pushing the stick away from the ball. Okay, you're already doing it quite well, but let's see if we can all see it. Good. Health and safety, point number 1. Everyone take a few steps back. Alright, that's all we've got time for. Good timing. Cut that out of the video. Edit that, yeah. Alright, any questions then, before I dash off? Step 4 was the release. Okay, that's the bit we didn't quite get onto. But I think, to be honest, that's maybe the bit that comes at the last. So if we can get the pick up, the footsteps, pushing the stick away, all we'd really talk about with the release is just making sure that we're really following through the whole way. So we're kind of ending up with our foot ahead of, and again in a straight line. Okay, that bit, what we try to be noticing is when they're releasing it, are they falling over to the side? Okay, we want to avoid that. We want to keep it close, and we want to make sure they're rotating through the ball. Okay, that would be the key bit for the release. Any questions?